Hi guys, welcome back to Dev Astrology. In today's video, we are going to be talking about the April monthly reading, and this is for the sign of Pisces. You can watch this video both from a Pisces rising as well as from a Pisces moon sun perspective. So without further ado, guys, let's look into the screen and understand what are the planetary positions that are going to be panning out for us in the month of April. Now, of course, as you are aware that Sun has been stationed in the sign of Pisces, and it is going to be there itself until April 12th. From April 13th onwards, it will be moving into the sign of Aries. Mercury is in the sign of Pisces as well, and it will become direct from April 7th onwards. Whilst Venus will also be becoming direct from April 12th onwards, and it is currently in its sign of exaltation in Pisces itself. Guys, in the screen, I have not showcased the retrograde movement of Mercury and Venus currently because they will be getting direct for you in the course of this month. Then, very importantly, Mars is coming into the sign of Cancer for you from 2nd of April. There are going to be big shifts happening from a nakshatra perspective as well, where Jupiter, who happens to be the nakshatra or the Lagna lord for Pisces people, Pisces moon sign people as well, he is going to be moving in from a Rohini nakshatra, which is ruled by moon, migrate into nakshatra from April 10th onwards. That's an important movement because he is going to get into the nakshatra of Mars. And then Saturn, which has finally, from our April perspective, arrived into the sign of Pisces itself. It is currently sitting in Purva Nakshatra and it will be moving to Uttara Nakshatra, which is ruled by Saturn himself. And that movement will happen on 27th of April. So, for the major part of the month, he is going to be stationed in the same nakshatra, which is ruled by Jupiter. It is not a bad situation, but through the course of the month, we will figure out these typical movements coming into play and bringing a lot of relief to all of us. Now, of course, Rahu is in the sign of Pisces. He is in Purva Nakshatra itself, ruled by Jupiter, and Ketu is currently in Virgo in Uttara Falguni, which is ruled by Sun. Most of these positions are already aware for you guys. Now, as we understand from your Lagna perspective, we do see that there is clutter of so many planets. Yes, Mercury and Saturn will be moving into the next house, but for the first half of the month, majorly what you're going to be seeing is that there could be some level of indecisiveness, there could be some level of stagnancy, there could be some level of confusion that could also come into play. As we discussed that, I want to draw your attention to the fact that Mercury has been set debilitated, but has also been getting Nij Bhanga in your first house itself, and he has been giving an exalted aspect to his own house, his own sign in Virgo to the seventh. Partnership, work related to new partnership opportunities, etc., has been extremely important, but the retrogression of both Venus and Mercury hasn't helped in terms of you deriving the right outcomes. Maybe in your marriage, you could have struggled to a certain extent. And the reason I'm trying to call that out is that there is a lot of cheshta bal, there is a lot of room that comes with the retrograded planets. But because they've not been able to actionize into results, especially in the transit perspective, you are going to find that relief once they become direct. Now, Mercury happens to be the lord of your fourth house, and he also happens to be the lord of your seventh, sitting in your ascendant in debilitation, in retrogression. That will shift as we've been discussing through the course of the month in on April 7th itself. So after the first week, you are going to find that sigh of relief coming into your life, friends. It's going to be extremely important. Why? Because now what you're going to realize is that with the fourth lord being an ascendant and getting that niche bhanga, he will be able to help you with gain of more knowledge, insights, some level of action is anticipated in terms of you expanding your property, maybe taking some actions with with your spouse, with your partner, in partnership with your better half, to do some activity at your home front. I wouldn't be surprised if some of you want to embark upon some sort of upgrades at your home, buying of furniture, doing some sort of an activity in terms of repair. It is also possible that many of you could be looking forward to bring a shift. Home place itself, you might want to figure out and relocate to a new location. Shift in your house is also very much probable in the month of April. For those for whom that is not going to materialize, I think some sort of an upgrade at your home, etc., could be on top of your mind. Now, you have to be cognizant of the fact that Mercury is going to remain in the sign of Pisces in your first house itself through the course of the month. And he will be in conjunction with the rest of the planets. Now, Venus is also sitting there in exaltation. And the good part that I see is that Venus is going to become direct now. Venus is the lord of your eighth house and your third house sitting in the first. Now, of course, third lord sitting into the first 11 places away from itself. Guys, it's an extraordinary placement. It is in Parivartan Yoga and exchange also with Jupiter, who's your lord, who's your first house lord from a moon sign perspective. But even after you've been putting in efforts, Pisces, something has not been working out, some delay, some sort of lack of support coming in from the universe has been happening for you of late. And the reason for that was that Venus has been in retrogression. Now, of course, that is going to shift from April 12th. And it is going to be super helpful because now all your efforts should result into some positive outcome. Yes, the conjunction of that Mercury and Venus is also important because Venus at one side is giving a debilitated aspect to the seventh, but Mercury is balancing it with its exalted aspect. So, that entire axis of 6 and 12, or the first and the seventh house for you, is now going to pan out in a much better shape. You are going to start seeing some positive impact trickle down for you folks as you pass on week basis. I find this very positive, Pisces, for you because once Venus becomes direct, the efforts are going to result into some sort of a fruition. It is going to result into some sort of a positive outcome. And especially related to your partnerships, especially in terms of you pursuing new ventures, or if you are in some sort of business arena, I think you are going to see success in that front as well. Now, remember, Venus is also the lord of your eighth house, sitting in your first house itself at this point in time, which means that your interest in occult, any kind of research activities that you've been doing, any sort of efforts that you've been making in hiding, they are going to come to fruition. That also brings the risk of you materializing some sort of an external affair, connections outside of marriage. And that is where I would want you to draw your own judgment and make sure that you are taking the righteous calls. It is going to be extremely important for you. It is important because Mars is also becoming direct, who is the lord of your ninth house. And we will talk about it as he gets into your fifth house. But before we go there, you have to remember this combination of Mercury and Venus becoming direct is going to ooze out a lot of movement. Things that felt stalled after a lot of efforts from your end are now going to see some traction. First improvement layer will come after the first week itself, and then the second improvement you will see from the second end of second week of April onwards. Now that is also going to trigger another bit. Sun is sitting first house itself. Yes, Sun coming into the ascendant brings a lot of confidence, self-belief, etc. However, he also went through the solar eclipse on 29th of March with Rahu's placement and Saturn in combusted placement here itself. It's not been easy ride for all of us for that matter, but Pisces specifically, somewhere or the other, your efforts are getting overshadowed. They're not reaching their true destination. That will change with the transit of Sun coming into its sign of exaltation in the second house from April 13th onwards, as we discussed. Now, Sun coming into exaltation, being the lord of your sixth house, you have to understand the lord of sixth becoming exalted is not one of the most ideal situations to happen, yet it can bring in success for you. Number one, on your job front, you are going to find some ease with respect to how you deal with people, peers who are creating some issues at work. Competition, if you've been facing as a student watching this video, you are going to find success in terms of overcoming any kind of competitive examinations. You might find success in terms of cracking that bit as well. The other bit that you will notice is people who are working, employed, looking for some sort of loans, litigations where you've been struggling with all those areas, you will find some relief. Yes, you've been able to control things if you've been facing some sort of litigations of late, but you will also realize that once Sun comes into exaltation, it will bring victory to the door as well. It is going to help you in terms of bring in closures to the problems that you've been dealing for a while. So that's a positive outcome coming in from that perspective. Now, from a health standpoint, too, I want to call out Pisces. There is going to be a significant shift, improvement coming in your health as well with Sun's transit into the second house. See, sixth lord has been sitting 8 places away from itself into the first house itself. That's not a great position to be in, but as it transits ninth position away from itself, you will find that you are going to see some recovery in your health. But at the same time, with Sun's exaltation coming into the second house, you have to be watchful about your speech. You should not bring in ego kind of situations within your family itself. I think egotistical matters can be detrimental for you at this point in time. As I mentioned about your health, folks, I'm very confident this is also going to be a period where you are going to see a definite uptick in your savings. You are going to save more, you are going to grow more in terms of your wealth, in terms of your savings and assets. I think some sort of a promotion working out for many of you, Pisces, a growth coming in from your job perspective, things that were not materializing might materialize now in the month of April. Many of you will see refunds coming in from your taxes from the government organizations. At least that's what happens here in the US when the deadline of 15th April comes to an end. So many of you could see support coming in from the government, some kind of an increment coming in from the government feedback as well. That is something also you have to keep in mind. So you can't forget that. But remember, Sun is giving a debilitated aspect into the eighth. So some sort of an unexpected problem with respect to government situations, maybe tax related matters, etc., could also come into play. You have to be watchful on that front. But I do not see any negativity coming into play, at least from an overall transit of Sun perspective. Now, Saturn, who happens to be the lord of your 11th house and your 12th house, along with which, who is also the co owner of your 12th lord house itself, both of them are stationed in your first house itself. And Saturn has made that transit into your first house whilst he was in the state of combustion. So he has come in a combusted state and it is not able to express all the elements of 11th and 12th right now in your chart. Now, of course, we've done detailed videos on Saturn's transit into the sign of Pisces. If you've not had a chance, guys, I highly recommend you to go and spend some time to watch those videos as well. However, important bit to note is that Saturn remains combusted for the first 7-10 days, and post that, when it comes out of its combustion, as Sun also moves into the next house, you will find a lot of relief in terms of some of those gains that were not materializing. Even the expenses that you are planning and not materializing will now start happening. Why do I say that? Because he is the lord of your 11th and 12th house. From being an 11th lord, moving 3 places away into the ascendant, your own hard work is going to result into those outcomes that you've been chasing. And that could be anything, folks. If you're watching this as a student, it could be related to college admission. It could be related to your performance in studies. As a homemaker, whatever daily chores you do, you're not able to find that satisfaction in those efforts. As a working professional, as a business person, I've given you insights of the of Mercury and Venus. But once this combustion ends, especially from the second half of April, Pisces, lot of positivity is going to start materializing slowly and steadily. Yes, Rahu would also be inching towards the exit. He would be inching towards moving into the 12th house itself. And we've been talking about of so many challenges, confusion, fear coming into our mind, especially if you're watching this from a Sade Sati perspective of Pisces moon. I will urge you to have that patience because things will start trickling in the right fashion, in the right direction for you, albeit from the second half of the month. It might be slow but in the first half too, but do not lose hope. You have to understand one more bit, especially from a Sade Sati standpoint, or even from Lagna of Pisces perspective. See, this conjunction of Saturn and Rahu can be tricky, but it doesn't mean that it is going to entail into all negativity. If Saturn has a decent placement in your chart, or Rahu has a decent placement in your natal chart, you will still be able to bounce back. Because I want to emphasize to the fact that transit has a 10-20% impact on what you are going to feel through. It's the natal chart which gives you a lot of insight as to how things are going to be transpiring for you. All right. So please gain some confidence on that perspective. This Saturn, of course, will be giving an aspect to your Jupiter. whilst he is here. Once Jupiter moves out in May, I think things are going to be uncontrolled there as well. Saturn will be giving an aspect to Ketu and your seventh house, and more importantly, your 10th house. So, being busy, working towards bringing things to closure, being respectful towards your partners, towards external professional partnerships as well, and soaking it up, soaking the pressure for the first 10-15 days is going to be important, guys. You might not find the needle moving anywhere, but that doesn't mean you give up on hope, you give up on all possibilities as to what you can do to make things happen, because you will feel nothing is happening. It's just that you don't have to drop the ball from your sentiment perspective and keep pushing in whatever best you can. Now, as we move ahead, we see Jupiter, who's your lord, he's your superhero, very importantly, sitting in the third house itself. He is going to be transiting from a Rohini nakshatra into the Mrigashira nakshatra itself. Now, this is an important transit because it's going to be coming into play from April of 10th onwards. And now, Mrigashira nakshatra is the nakshatra ruled by Mars. Mars is going into debilitation. He is your second lord as well as your ninth lord. He has been in a tough spot for a while, was sitting in Gemini, especially for Pisces. It was not that worse a movement, unlike for Aries and Scorpios who were struggling big time. But he's a Yog Karaka planet for you folks. It is an important planet. And once he's getting into debilitation, of course, you are going to feel the itch. But Jupiter is going to at least give you some respite by coming into Mrigashira Nakshatra and delivering some promise from its aspect into your fifth, ninth, and 11th house. So, your ninth lord who is coming into debilitation will find some upliftment from that Jupiter from April 10th onwards. So, you will see the tick. Do not drop the ball. Keep on working hard. You will see the positive outcomes come through as well. Savings might struggle a bit. You could be tempted towards eating a lot of spicy food during this point of time. I will urge you to please keep a check, because Sun's exaltation is going to help you there. But Mars could also impact your speech. It could bring in some directness, harshness, shrewdness into how you communicate your ideas. Please be watchful on that front. This Mars is giving an aspect to your eighth house. You are going to find some or the other areas of interest with respect to speculation. Please be watchful on that front. Not everything could move in the right direction, but the good part is this Mars is giving an exalted aspect to your 11th house along with Jupiter, which continues to be a very positive thing, because now this Mars is going to promise some gains for you. It is going to promise some positive outcomes for you. Even though that Saturn is sitting combusted, by the second half of the month, you will realize that Saturn will also come out of combustion. He is going to start settling into the sign, into the house of Pisces itself. And Mars and Jupiter are going to bring an uptick to your gains versus the losses. So that is important, guys. It is not the aspect into the 12th, but into the 10th itself. Now, whilst Jupiter is continuing to stay here, he is in a Parivartan Yoga, and as Venus also becomes direct, you will see that there will be that some strength coming into this exchange, this Parivartan Yoga for yourself. So, your movement, your short distance travels that you're doing, where you're trying to establish yourself, any kind of effort that you're putting in terms of your own venture, your own enterprise, those are going to see a positive uptick. Whilst we discussed all of this, Ketu continues to inch towards your sixth house. Ketu will hopefully not be giving much of a damage to your partnerships, to your relationships. And as Ketu is coming into the fifth, that is going to become very prominent from your work career perspective. Pisces, the next 2 to 3 months, all the way from April to June, are hyper critical from your career, karma, job, health perspective. You have to take proper care of yourself, and it will also bring you an exorbitantly great opportunity to transform, to make a shift towards a new job, towards starting something new, towards addressing the challenges that have kept you at bay all this while, and hopefully come out victorious. Whilst there is so much negativity about the conjunction of Saturn and Rahu for April and major part of May as well, I still want to give a positive message to all of you that this is a time you do not drop the ball. You keep working hard. You utilize how planets are supporting your health. Keep a watch on your diet. Keep a watch on your speech. Be respectful. You are going to gain respect both from the market as well as from your family perspective. And the stuff, the actions, the work, the outcomes that have been stalled for you all this while, steadily you will see week over week, there will be a movement of the needle. There will be a shift in the positive direction that you anticipate. Just don't get panic stricken and stick to the basics. All right. I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. If you have, then smash on that like button, subscribe to Daily Astrology, and keep watching.